Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Probably good afternoon. It's different time zones for everyone. So it's good morning here in Texas. So I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present my current research with you all. Um, our group at MD Anderson, so I am in Dr. Sheldon Cheng's lab at MD Anderson, and our lab basically focuses on structure characterization, structural and functional characterization of proteins and protein-protein complexes involved in epigenetic pathways. We recently started using, recently started using the SACs at ALS a couple of years ago. And during these 2 years, we were successful in characterizing few enzymes and few protein-protein complexes. And today I will be talking about one of my projects that is a zinc finger 410 protein. And it's a transcription factor with 5 zinc fingers. And I would like to, and how it interacts with DNA. So I would like to mention these are all preliminary results, and so I'm still at the learning phase, and I would appreciate your feedback and suggestions on how we can improve the models or anything else which you consider that it should be improved. So this zinc finger 410 protein, it has 5 zinc fingers, and there's an N-terminal region and C-terminal region. And last year, our group, in collaboration with Dr. Blobel's group at University of Pennsylvania, they published a paper in Molecular Cell and reported that this protein binds to the promoter and enhancer region of CHD4. It's a part of a nucleosome remodeling deacetylase complex. And once this protein binds to the promoter region, it activates CHD4, which then represses the expression of fetal hemoglobin genes. Emily in our lab, she determined the structure of these 5 zinc fingers with the DNA and found out that these zinc fingers bind to the major groove of the DNA. She also tried to characterize the binding affinity of these zinc fingers with DNA and find out that these zinc fingers bind very tightly because the KD is around 20 nanomolars. So very little is known about this zinc finger 410, and there's no structural information available. Even when she solved the structure, she used the SAD method because there was no template available in the PDB. So in order to identify the most stable and predict them and identify the stable domain, we use the disorder prediction using Ponder. And here you can see that the central region is quite stable, and this basically corresponds to the zinc finger region, whereas the N termini and C termini are quite disordered. So probably that's the reason why we don't have any structural information in the PDB yet. So we then design different constructs. So we have a full length construct. And then since we have this information about the zinc fingers, we decided that we keep it as a stable common scaffold. And we made a construct with N-terminal region and zinc finger, and another one with zinc finger with the C-terminal region. Emily, she again characterized the binding affinity of these different constructs with the DNA by using fluorescence polarization assays, and reported that the binding affinity of full-length zinc finger 410 with the DNA and the N-term construct with zinc finger region is similar. That's around 400 nanomolars. And the binding affinity of zinc finger alone and zinc finger with the C-terminal region is very tight. It's around 20 to 40 nanomolars. So then she purified all the constructs. You can see the quality of the purified proteins on your right side. And based on the gel filtration assay, the elution volume for each construct corresponded to the dimeric molecular weight. But since these are not globular proteins, they're disordered, so these molecular weights were not reliable. So then we thought we should use SEC-SACs in determining the oligomeric states of the protein. So we shipped the samples to ALS, and here you can see the intensity profile for full length N-term zinc finger and the C-term zinc finger. And these are the Guineer fits for all the constructs. They're quite linear, and this suggests the samples were free from aggregation and interparticle effects. And here you can see the Kratky plots for each construct. So for the full length and N-term zinc finger, you can see these are quite flexible, just partially unfolded and disordered in solution. And in case of the zinc finger C-term, it's very unfolded in solution and resembles like an intrinsically disordered protein in solution. And if you look at the P of R functions, you can P of R plot, you can see that this full length exists as a multi-domain protein. And these are quite elongated in solution. So in general, all these proteins, they actually, they are like scaffold-like proteins, which resemble the beads on a string. The central region is quite stable, whereas the ends are quite flexible. So I tried to summarize the statistics from these plots, the RG and Dmax for all the constructs. For full length, the RG is around 38 angstroms, whereas for the N-terminal and C-terminal region, it's around 30 angstroms. And for the Dmax, for the full length, it is 123. And for the N-term and C-term, it's close to 100 angstrom. So if you look at the molecular weight estimates, because we were basically interested to characterize the oligomeric state at that point. So we found out that the calculated molecular weights from Sachs and Mals, the observed molecular weights from Sachs and Mals, they were very close, they were in close agreement with each other. And they actually correspond to the monomeric state of the proteins in solution. So what we were assuming as dimer, they actually turned out to be monomer in solution. So then, I discussed my results with Dr. Mikkel, and I showed him, because next we wanted to get some shape information about them. So initially I did ab initio modeling. Then he suggested me that this is not a correct way of doing it, because our system is a very flexible system where we have the intrinsically disordered proteins. So we should rather go for the rigid body system, rigid body modeling. So then in order to do the rigid body modeling, we needed a static model like a homology model. So I tried to generate homology models by using different servers, but the confidence scores were very low. So because we didn't have a template in the PDV. So then recently when the alpha code was released, I tried to make a model for this protein, the ZNF410 full length. And here, this is the model which was generated by AlphaFold. So then I tried to superimpose the zinc finger structural information on this model. And you can see in cyan, this is the structural information in cyan, what we determined, and it superimposes quite well. So then we used the rigid body modeling. So initially I tried multifox, and here I uploaded the AlphaFold model as a starting model, and then uploaded the Sachs intensity profile and specified the linker regions. And Multifox suggested that there are two distinct states in which the full-length protein can exist. So one is a compact state, which is an RG of around 35 angstrom, and another is the extended state where the RG is around 54 angstrom. And from experimental RG, we have around experimental RG is around 38 angstrom. So then we use Bilbo MD for rigid body modeling. So what Bilbo MD does, it performs molecular dynamic simulations, and it generates an ensemble of models, and all these, and then we generate the Sachs curves from these models, and then we compare the Sachs curves from the models with the experimental intensity profile. So this is the our starting model, and Bilbo MD generated ensemble of models, and the best fit model was this second number model, because it had a chi-square of around 2.2 and RG around 38 angstrom, and this is similar to what we observed as in the experimental RG, that is 38 angstrom. And here you can see it fits relatively better. The red line corresponds to the Sachs intensity profile, which is calculated from this model, and in black is the experimental scattering profile intensity. So we repeated the same thing for the different constructs, that is the N-term construct with the zinc finger and zinc finger with the C-term. So for the N-term, so for the N-term zinc finger, Multifox predicted that it's a very stable protein and there's only one state in solution, and the RG should be around roughly around 30 to 32 angstrom. And RG from our experimental curve was around 32 angstrom. So Bilbo MD, I generated the models using Bilbo MD. So this was the starting model. And again, I got ensemble of models. So Bilbo MD generated around 10,000 models. And here you can see a difference in the RG and Dmax. So it generated so many models. So the best fit model was the ensemble 2, model 2. And you can see the the chi-square is 1, so it fits perfectly with experimental profile, and Rg is around 32 angstrom. And this matches with experimental Rg of around 31.95, so which was a very close match. Then when we use Multifox for the third construct, that is a zinc finger with a C-terminal region, Multifox predicted that it's very flexible and it exists in number of states, like 4 states, and all of them were extended and they were in extended conformation. So as was evident in the Kratky plot, because it was completely unfolded. So here the Multifox also predicted the elongated structures. So when we performed the Bilbo MD simulation runs, here this is the starting model, and we ended up getting number of models with a different chi-square and different RGs. So here we get a chi-square. The best fit model had a chi-square of around 3, but the RG did not match to our experimental RG. So then it's not, then we looked back again and we found out that this, it's actually, it should be the case, because zinc fingers without the DNA, they shouldn't be stable. So they should be unfolded. So that's the reason probably we did not end up getting a good model. So then we wanted to know what happens when we add the DNA in the samples. So this is the intensity profile after adding the DNA. And you can see the Guinea fits for each individual constructs. And here adding the DNA suggested that these proteins, they become even more extended and more elongated, as evident from the P of R curves. But when we compare the proteins with, and then if I try to summarize the parameters which were observed in different constructs. So RG was slightly, so the values for RG, they were slightly elevated, increased for full length and N-terminal construct, but for C-terminal, it was more or less the same. And there were increase in the Dmax values also, slight increase in the Dmax values. So when we looked at the molecular weight estimates from Sachs and Mars, they actually corresponded to the theoretical molecular weights when we have 1:1 ratio of protein and DNA. So now we had an idea that there is 1:1 stoichiometry for both protein and DNA. So when we look at the when we compare the DNA alone, protein, and the complex in blue, so we found out that we observed that that for full length and for the N-terminal construct, adding the DNA made it to be more flexible and more elongated. But when we add but in case of the C-term construct, adding the DNA, it helped to actually reduce the flexibility. And yesterday when Rob mentioned about the Porod exponent, so I tried generating those plots, but I'm not sure whether they are the correct ones, or I need to go for find a better plateau. Maybe he can help me help and comment better on how to improve these and how to interpret these plots. So yeah, so this is what we observed, that adding DNA, it basically helps in the elongation. It increases the Dmax and brings about some changes in the shape. So then we performed the rigid body modeling for these proteins with DNA. And we got an ensemble of structures and different chi-square, different RGs, and the best fit was had a best fit model had a chi-square of around 3.7 angstrom with RG of 45. And this is what we observed with experimental RG of around 44 angstroms. Then we repeated the same thing for another construct, that is the N-term zinc finger with DNA. Again, we got number of ensembles, chi-squares and RGs. And the best fit was model 2, which had a chi-square of 13.6. But when I examined the structure closely, I found that there were clashes of DNA with this helix. So I'm not sure if what I did is correct or not, because then I deleted few bases in this DNA. I know this is not correct, because that will eventually, we will lose the contacts with the zinc finger, but just for curiosity, I tried doing that. And I saw that it increased the chi-square to 5. So maybe you can guide me how to improve this model and get a better fit and better model for this N-term zinc finger with the DNA construct. And then for the C-term zinc finger, I did not get a better any better model, because all the chi-squares and RGs, they were like way off from what we expect. So yeah, maybe you can help me how to improve these models and improve the fits. So basically so I'm trying to summarize. So basically by using Sachs and Miles, we got information about the molecular weights, about the oligomeric states of the protein, and found out that these proteins, they're intrinsically disordered, quite flexible and unfolded in solution. They are multi-domain protein. And we also got information about the binding stoichiometry and the conformational changes and some kind of atomistic models also. So I just want to thank my PI and my lab members and Dr. John Tainer's group and Dr. Chris for useful suggestions. And then I also discussed this project twice with Dr. McCall, and he helped me and he guided me to improve the project and data quality. So I'm very thankful, and to all the staff of Sybil's Beamline. Thank you.